Alright, today I'm making a video on how I'm deepening my poorly draining compacted clay soil. So 3 years ago we started these beds. We just did the no dig approach where you just pile compost on top of the ground and plant in the compost and everything grows. Well, later that summer we had crazy rain events and it just turned to muck. Everything that had the deep compost on it didn't drain well. It drained worse than the walkways, and it just turned into a failure through here. So I came in with a big tiller on a tractor, tilled all this up to about 6 inches deep, and then shoveled the walkways up onto the beds. I only have about 4 to 6 inches of topsoil, so that got me a little bit of depth. And then after that, it was put some non-sifted, a little bit woody compost on top and planted cover crop right into it. I think we planted tillage radish first and then into that with rye and vetch. And then it went rye and vetch over winter last year. And in the spring, we terminated it with a tarp. Just pull a tarp over the top. I'll make a video of that later to kill it. And we grew in this bed, I believe it was tomatoes last year. They did very well. But you can see that I over broad fork just to get, so that's my native soil underneath. And in the fall last year when the rain started again, we had 8 inches of, no, 6.25 inches of rain in like 30 hours. So the drainage, the tomatoes were fine because they were up, but dug my hand down in the bed and it was pretty saturated, about 4 inches down. So what I've done now, and the beds that I did this to last year, this one right here, is I came through and I broad forked it deep as the broad fork will go, which is about 12 inches, and then pulled it back really far to bring some of that not so great soil up to the top. And it creates these nice cracks, seams, and I'll go over the top of this with compost again that I have that I've sifted. And what that, my theory on what that does and what I saw in the other beds is it moves the water, because water doesn't move through here, doesn't sink into the ground as much as I'd like to have it. So we can go from crazy rain where it's completely saturated and then a week later it's dry as it evaporates out if we don't cover it. Cover it with compost or some type of mulch layer. And then it cracks, plants won't grow in it, it's too hard. So I broad fork this as deep as the tines will go, about 12 inches down. Get some cracks in there and I'll go ahead and I'll spread compost over the top of this, enough to make it level enough to plant again. So some areas will get probably 6 inches deep, other areas will get only half an inch. And what that appeared to have done last year is the water moves down into that deeper layer where the plants aren't growing. Anyway, it kind of slowly percolates down into the ground, and also when the sun comes out, it draws it up. The beds perform beautifully that I did that with. So this one right here, most everything I grow really only has a root zone of about 2 to 4 inches. So we but I want to improve the soil. I want 12 inches of nice deep soil, in all these beds so that I can grow carrots anywhere, anytime. But this bed was composted last fall. Again, it was composted 2 falls ago, a little bit last spring. It was broad forked deep. We planted lettuce into it, composted it, planted lettuce into it, and then ran radishes in it, radish and turnip, and then into carrots, and everything performed very well, very productive. So I did get some onions in the ground. I'm still working on that. Make another video. But there's a couple carrots I missed. So over here, these beds I've already composted. You can see they're raised up nicely. So if we get these crazy rain events, the water can move down into the lower area. The top half drains very well down to about 6-8 inches, and then it's all on a slope, so it works its way out. The beds up top here, these would be I think 3 seasons of that system, and they perform very well. I had garlic in here and then went right to brassicas last year. Got a little bit of weeds, but as you can see, so these won't get, we'll get the weeds pulled. We'll get no compost this year, and we'll go right into whatever we're going to grow in here. I don't really have a plan totally made out yet for this top half. The top half of the farm is going to be longer season crops, and the bottom will be quick. So you can see I got all those done. And this is all my own homemade compost. I don't buy in compost. I might buy a bag or two to get seed started, but I don't buy in anything from anywhere because I have trust issues. And I'll make a video on that later. My trust issues with bought in compost. But as you can see, the bottoms of these beds down at the bottom of the slope in that walkway, pretty wet, but it's March and the snow just came out of the ground. But it's really not concerning because we're raised up a good 5, probably 5-6 inches. But this is another bed that I didn't broad fork as aggressively in this. And I'll go right over the top of this stubble with compost. I'll curse myself out when it comes time to seed it if I use the seeder, but transplanting it and it's fine. All that organic matter staying put, even though it's pretty much just carbon now. Soil organic carbon is great. The other reason that bed got over there, I broad forked it so aggressively, pulling it back, was to dig rocks. It was very rocky. I got, I don't know, probably the equivalent of 7 5-gallon buckets. Yeah, I think that's what it was. As I was pulling the rocks, I was throwing them in a 5-gallon bucket. So this bed's was not as rocky, but the frost pushes them up, and that is part of the problem that we deal with here. Is if you take and dig straight down, we have, I don't know, 3-4 inches of an okay topsoil, and then we get into a layer of gray clay and rocks, and then we go through that about 6 inches deeper, and then it's a red clay and bigger rocks. And probably go over there and show you some of the gray clay. Well, my roadway my roadway up into here. This is all just a gray clay that was dug out on another project. You can see you're not growing plants in this. I don't do anything for weeds, and they don't come up. I just piled it up here to make a roadway. But the thing that was very interesting is we grew that cover crop in here, the rye and the tillage radish. Where is it? I kind of set it aside. Right here. These clumps. No, that. I thought I had it out. But you could see where there's still roots from that cover crop 2 years ago down into it. So it does its job. It's slowly breaking it down. I'm just trying to speed that process up a little. See? Zoom in on that. That's what we'd be trying to grow. But see the root hairs right there? That's 12 inches down. That's the bottom of where the broad fork pulled it up. So probably not a perfect system, but try to do as little soil disturbance as possible while still getting some tilth and drainage. And this soil, if you run a rototiller through it and don't add organic matter, it'll be like that roadway out there. You won't grow nothing in it for 5 years. So we're just not no-till farming because we want to. We are because we have to here. But the advantage of this soil is when we had a soil test done, all the minerals are in very good balance. Was shocked. The only thing that I don't have in my soil is boron. That's the only mineral, trace mineral that I'm low on, is boron. And that was explained to me because we're at such a higher elevation, and this is all glacial till, that ocean water wasn't over the top of it. So I guess that explains it. But that's the video. Hope you like it. If you have poor soil on your farm or garden, don't be afraid to grow vegetables in it, because we get a lot of production out of this. Even though it's a little bit of work, that broad fork right there is cheaper than a rototiller, and if you repeatedly use it every year or so, you don't need to. It just loosens everything. Compost gets down in there, and it really changes the structure of the soil. Makes it very productive. All right. Thanks. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.